Bombardier announced it is cutting 7,000 jobs today. The company's been around for nearly 75 years. It started as a modest snowmobile company in the eastern townships in Quebec. Natasha Fata takes a look back now at how it all started. Natasha.
Well, that's right, Susan, and that's part of the reason why people are so intrigued by the story today. It's not just about 7,000 jobs. It's not just about dollars and cents and contracts with Air Canada. This is really a story of one man's innovative discipline and also the history of Canadian innovation that expanded really right around the world. As you said off the top, it started in the 1930s and 40s with images like these. He created the first snowmobile. Now, hard to imagine a Canada before snowmobile, but really Bombardier, in his modest dwellings, came up with this concept, began to manufacture it, and that really led him to have an industry-wide control on this particular machine that so many of us are dependent on. And so then through that, he was able to expand into other areas. His story really is a story of planes, trains, and snowmobiles. So moving on to the train section of the story, this began with creating these uniform train units that could be used to move people rapidly within cities. And so this subway system that he helped to innovate in many ways by having these motorized driverless vehicles set up, they expanded all over the world through this. In the 70s and 80s, the first French operation opened up, then expanded right through Europe, and now has continued to expand throughout Asia into parts of Northern Africa. This really represents Bombardier becoming a global phenomenon. And then they started to soar in the 1990s with the jets, and the jets continue to be the major focus of today's news, whether you consider it good or bad news. This expansion with Air Canada, the jets is where they have continued to take flight, continue to innovate, and spark one's imagination. So again, it's this notion of not only is the story of one corporation, one businessman, but really Canada's legacy. And he was commemorated in that capacity with one of those heritage minutes we've all grown up with. Have a look at this.
From his first experimental snowmobile to jet aircraft, Joseph Armand Bombardier's vision would eventually circle the world, thanks to the company that still bears his name.
And so if that isn't enough to motivate you, Susan, just think, if you've ridden on a subway system in Toronto, New York, Beijing, Delhi, Berlin, you got there very likely through Bombardier.
Thank you, Natasha.
You're welcome.